Deb was on, but then she left.
Okay.
Brian, do you know how many we've got in the waiting room?
We've got 22
Okay,
right
will
now.
do.
All right. And you don't happen to see a
All right, I'm gonna get off the phone now, okay?
I don't
Bye.
see those people yet.
Okay.
Oh, man.
Bagby, Melanie Bagby. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Okay, if you want to, yeah, then we could see if. All right. I think we're all here, about ready to go live. Councilmember Bagby, good to see you. I don't know if you're able to unmute or share your video. Let me see. Oh, hey, Melanie.
How's it going?
Good to see you.
Nice to see
We
you.
got Director Rogers here. Melanie, I know you're joining from the council. Is your mayor joining as well?
I don't know. We exchanged texts, so we were never able to talk directly with our schedules today.
Great. Well, we're going to invite everybody in. I'm going to say a couple quick remarks. I'm going to introduce the SMART board members on the line. I'm going to turn it over to David Rabbit, who's going to facilitate, and then he'll introduce you and any other Cloverdale council members. But if we miss any, please let us know. We'd like to give them an opportunity to just say a quick hello to their constituents before we go to Q&A.
Sure.
All right. Everybody ready to go?
Good to go.
All right, let's open it up.
We're ready to go.
Let's go.
Howdy. All right, we are live.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Great to see you on Zoom here. Thank you all for joining us. I see some of you are sharing your screens. Others, if you like to, you can do so. Quickly, as a quick hello, my name is Eric Lucan. I have the privilege of serving as the chair for the SMART Board of Directors for this year. And this is our September 21st SMART Listening Forum. This forum is a part of a community-wide listening tour where we're really trying to get out into the communities that we serve and gather as much feedback as we can, engage in meaningful conversation. I'd like to just introduce some other SMART board members that are with us today. We have Director David Rabbit, also Sonoma County Supervisor. He's going to be leading our discussion today. We have Director Deb Fudge. Wave Deb, and we have Director Chris Rogers, who was instrumental as well in putting this together. So I want to recognize all of them. We also have much of our SMART staff on, including our General Manager, Farhad Mansourian, our CFO, Aaron McGrath, Joanne Parker. So a good group of our staff available to answer questions in case they are to come up. I'll just mention briefly that all of these listening sessions are going to be recorded. Video of this meeting will be shared with the entire SMART Board of Directors, and all of the comments that we receive during these sessions will go to the full board for discussion at some future board meetings. So we're really excited to hear from you all. Thank you to Cloverdale for virtually hosting it. And with that, I'm going to turn it right over to Director Rabbit, who's going to introduce some of our Cloverdale mayor and council members joining us as well. David, take it away.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Chair Lucan. I very much appreciate that, and thanks for your leadership. I do see our mayor of Cloverdale, Gus Walter, on there. And Gus, it's good to see you. How about you open it up for us and say a few words to your constituents out there?
Well, thank you, David. And I want to thank Eric and SMART for coming up to Cloverdale to listen to what we have to say. And I see we have 34 individuals, and I'm sure I see Councilmember Bagby has joined us, Gene Marzinkowski. So there's quite a few folks from Cloverdale that are really interested in this listening session that you're having today. So with that, welcome. And Councilmember Bagby, if you'd like to say hello, and then we can turn it back to David.
Perfect.
Sure. I just want to go ahead and welcome everyone. And I'm very grateful that the board is going around and really, listening to our questions and concerns. I know that there is a tremendous amount of interest, and we want to inform you about what our expectations are, what our needs are. And we also want to hear some updates from you. So I'm looking forward to a robust dialogue this evening.
Great, and thank you very much. And we look forward to that. And like the chair said, that tonight is really just about SMART getting out into the community to really listen to your concerns and really learn from that, take that back. What will happen tonight was we'll go around and make sure that everyone's comments are recorded and summarized. And if you'll apologize for me butchering your name prior to me trying to pronounce it, I appreciate that. And these comments will be summarized and brought back to the board. And this is what we've done now. This is our third or fourth. So we've done Santa Rosa. This is our third. So we've done Santa Rosa, Windsor, and now Cloverdale. We plan to have listening sessions in all the cities to which we serve, both in Marin and Sonoma County. And we very much appreciate your participation. I saw that Carol Russell was on our list, and I don't see Carol yet, but we very much appreciate Carol Russell's dedication to serving on the SMART board for many years and representing the North County's interests very, very well. So with that, I think we'll start off with and just take comments as we go. And again, if you can try to be succinct, and if there's a specific question that can be answered tonight, so be it. If not, some of these things are going to be brought back and really incorporated into longer term policy by the entire board. And I'll do my best to try to keep my eye out for raised hands through the participation list, which if you go down to the bottom there and if you pull up, press on participant, you have an option to raise your hand, and that way I can identify you and bring you forward to ask any questions. Mayor, please.
Thank you, David. I'm just going to bring up something that I'm concerned with being an elected official here in Cloverdale, and that's the economic development of Cloverdale. I guess it was a year ago, we had a developer who wanted to develop the Alexander Valley Resort property. And for whatever reason, there was some issues in him being granted a crossing for over the tracks that ran through his property of the Alexander Valley Resort property. And I don't want to get into it now with you. He'll be coming back. I just hope we can find a way to make this work. I believe he had wanted to make a commitment that he would do the crossing up to whatever standards you want when, in fact, the train is coming to Cloverdale. He's just afraid that if he would have done the improvements at that time, the standards may have changed 3 or 4 years down the road. So that was his big concern. And again, it's an economic development driver for our city. And I really hope that in the future we could work with the developers that want to develop on the northern end. So that's all I have to say.
I appreciate that very much. So in summary on that, it's just really talking about really the grade separation standards and making sure that we have our policies in place going forward. And we were noting the economic development impact for the city of Cloverdale in this particular case. So I appreciate that. I do see a hand up, and again, I apologize on the, but it's from, I'll just use the first name, Jenny.
Yes, no, it's okay. It's Candelaria Orr. It's all right. It gets murdered on a daily basis, so you're fine. I want to introduce myself. I'm running for city council in Cloverdale, and all of this is kind of new to me, and so it's just been a really wonderful learning experience, and I very much believe in SMART and bringing it up to Cloverdale. And I guess my question for you would just be, as a potential council member, what can I do to advocate to just make this a reality and make sure that, we're advocating and getting those dollars so that we can, extend the line up to Cloverdale? What could a council member do, just for someone who does not know that?
That's a great comment, and I appreciate that very much. I think we're always looking for more allies and advocates for transportation infrastructure projects. So we'll make sure that we communicate to you exactly what you can do. But as there are opportunities for additional funding sources that are around, either in the Bay Area, the state, or even at the federal level, we would always encourage all of our council members throughout the county to make sure that they're aware of what's happening, encouraging those dollars to flow down to us here at the local level so that we can put them in place and get these projects built. So that's duly noted. Very much appreciate that. And thank you for throwing your hat in the ring and running for office.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Don't be shy.
Well, I wonder, David, if you could follow up on Jenny's question with some specific concerns that that people might have about, Cloverdale's current population not being high enough. What would we would need to do in terms of, additional planning or zoning changes in our downtown, because we've actually made a lot of effort in that area. And so, what do we need to do to better communicate our plans, our potential for development that exists within our urban growth boundary? What is it that we need to do to better communicate with the SMART board and other municipalities to answer the concerns, I think rightfully so, about our population levels being worth the financial investment in coming all the way to Cloverdale? What are some things that stick out, and what are some solutions that you can recommend?
Yeah, and I know you know this by being on the Sonoma County Transportation Authority, but as an MTC commissioner, I can tell you that dollars for any infrastructure projects are seemingly harder and harder to come by. Everyone was hoping at the federal level there would be a transportation measure coming forward. Usually that was seen as something that was very bipartisan. Everyone was for roads and infrastructure and projects such as that. It's become very partisan, as everything in DC has. And there was hope that maybe faded a couple of months ago that something would come forward prior to the election. But now, of course, one side doesn't want to give the other a victory of any kind. And then we'll have the period of whomever wins from November to January, and one's not looking at something necessarily coming out in that time. I was on a national call. There is still talk of projects or people pushing and advocating and trying to get those things in place because it is important that those dollars flow from the federal down through the state and out. At the state level, I think the same thing is true. And because the dollars have become so scarce, I think it's also, the cost benefit factors have come into play. And it does make everything is very competitive. And so we have a lot of things to make sure that we can communicate when we're trying to make the best case of why we can continue going north, including that cost benefit analysis and what it brings to the communities of Cloverdale. In this case, I think what's important too is that the voters looked at this as an entire system. But it's challenging. Truthfully, it's challenging. I know of no bigger advocate than our general manager, who has great connections and is constantly advocating and looking for ways to get dollars into the system. We have been very successful. Just look at the construction into Windsor. And so that's been a good sign. We just need to kind of keep it up and keep fighting forward for those dollars to flow down from DC through Sacramento and into Sonoma County. I noticed that our vice chair, Barbara Parr, has also joined us. So we very much thank Barbara for joining us tonight. Barbara also serves as president of the Golden Gate Bridge district, of which I also serve. So thank her for her service. And I see Deb Fudge, Director Fudge has her hand up. So we'll go to Deb.
I just wanted to add to what Melanie said, and I don't know how closely Cloverdale works with Lake and Mendocino counties to work with them in an official manner, which is something maybe we can help with at some point, to determine the ridership that would come from those two counties, and maybe work officially with the counterparts who are their economic development counterparts in those two counties, and really try to determine from them what the ridership would be of people that would flow to Cloverdale to take the train further south. And so I don't know if we have any numbers. I'm just shooting from the hip here, but it's always helpful to have numbers from official governments. And so maybe that would be something that we can all work on. And I'm just guessing here, but that's where I would go as well, because it isn't just about Cloverdale, it's about Lake and Mendocino counties as well.
Yeah, I think that that's a point that does not get emphasized enough. And I believe we do have those numbers, because I remember when I was the city's appointee to Climate Action 2020, before I was on council, that was some of the information we got out of the research from our CPA. So actually, I think we have that information in-house. And I do remember that the Press Democrat did a story about that, about how many people do commute. So it's probably, I don't know if, honestly, one of the issues with Cloverdale, of course, is our size and our staff capacity to really do that kind of outreach. I'm not sure we really have the capacity to reach out directly to the county of Lake and the county of Mendocino. And I would kind of expect the SMART board and my supervisor to do that on our behalf, because it really not only affects the city of Cloverdale, but the, entire North County. So.
Yeah, and we could definitely help and get that information coordinated.
That'd be great.
Is there anyone else out there that has a question or a comment? There we go. Sheila Baker.
Hi, I just thank you for letting me sending this out and letting me know that I can join this. I have a question that's kind of similar to what's been talked about, and that's that, of course, Cloverdale is the best tourism town that you can think of. It's beautiful, as is Healdsburg and Windsor, and a great place to get away. But as has been discussed, the commute aspect of people living in Cloverdale, I hear people say here, oh, but Cloverdale's so small. I mean, why should the train go to Cloverdale? And my answer in my head is, well, why not? It's just a perfect place to live. Can people envision, or can it be marketed as a place to commute all the way, well, definitely to Santa Rosa and Rohnert Park and Petaluma, but all the way really to Marin County and San Francisco? I see that there is so much potential for living in this gorgeous, gorgeous area and being able to commute and to promote that idea as a commuter train. It's just kind of a question. Thanks.
Thank you, Sheila. I appreciate that very much. I think what's true is, just like with our virtual meetings and virtual work, where you live and where you work, that connection is kind of faded somewhat. Certainly we look at SMART as an opportunity to have a relaxing way to go from one to the other once we get back into that commute pattern again.
David?
Please, Barbara.
This is Barb. I'd just like to comment that on our board, we have at least 2 strong advocates for the tourism aspect. One is Deb Fudge, who's on the line. The other is Supervisor Zane. And they are constantly reminding us that Sonoma County is a destination for tourists. And if you're able, if there are enough resources, you might connect with the town of Windsor. They have done some amazing things to try to promote tourism. It's a little moot right now because most of our weekend services had to be stopped. But I think as we gear back up, we'll add more of those. And if we could get some tourism numbers, I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Barb. I appreciate that very much. So true. I mean, Sonoma County, last count we have was 7.5 million people visiting Sonoma County on an annual basis. That number, prior to COVID, was going nowhere but up. And I do think that we're getting our fair share of local travel. And as people do get back out and about, it'll be those short trips that they'll take from the Bay Area to locations like Sonoma County.
That's a gracious comment from the Napa person.
We appreciate that. I want to go to our general manager, who can give perhaps a little more information to the mayor's question, starting off with the private crossings, which I know are very difficult to deal with. But I want to go to Farhad, maybe to provide some additional information.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me, Mr. Abbott?
We can.
Yes, I wanted to let Mayor Walter and other council members know I had what we thought was a very good meeting with the developer of the resort property. We even talked about a strategy on how do we work together so we can at the end get the state approval. As you know, any new ag-grade crossing requires state of California's permission. And we even strategized that if the city council wishes, and I was very clear that all the land use decision needs to be done by the city of Cloverdale, then maybe we can have a station there or relocate a station there, because once you have a station, train comes to a stop and at-grade crossing is very doable at a station. So we even strategized at that. And we suggested that we get together with city officials, your city manager, planning director, whoever you wish, and the developer and us, because we like to work through the city with the developer. But we recognize the importance of this proposal, and we're very supportive. We just need to work together to make sure we can comply with all the state law.
That's great. I appreciate that very much. Anyone have any? There we go. Is it Gene? You got to unmute yourself, Gene.
Yeah, I just unmuted myself.
There you go. You're good to go.
Okay. I was, number one, very disappointed to see the tax initiative fail. I take SMART to Hamilton Field as I'm a docent at the air base there, and driving through two groups of commuters is really a bummer. So hopefully, we'll get back on a regular schedule. But my question is, will the proposed freight line help the bottom line for SMART?
That's a great question. Our goal is to make sure it only helps the bottom line. It doesn't hurt the bottom line. That's been true thus far. And we'll make sure that we get back to you in detail on that we've had some discussions. It's early in the process, to be fair. Kind of going through the analysis to make sure that we understand that. But we do think that it will only help the bottom line for SMART. It's not going to be a detriment for sure.
Well, I think the more that you have available freight for up in the North Bay, people will find that it's very economical to send via train rather than truck or American Express or whatever. So hopefully that will come through. Thank you.
We appreciate that. We think we think along the same lines. Anyone? Don't be shy. There we go. Back to Jenny.
I actually have Molly AC is on this right now, but she's not able to raise her hand.
Okay.
So I wanted to ask her question for you, if that would be all right.
That's great.
So she is asking, what is your plan for getting the train over the river in Healdsburg?
With that one, Farhad, do you want to talk real briefly about what we've done thus far to analyze the bridge situation there? I know at one time it was much more expensive, and I know that through the good engineering leadership that you're providing with Bill Gamlin, that it's less now, but it's still a challenge because it's a bridge. So Farhad?
Yes, you're very correct. So, as part of the Windsor project, when we went and got money, we also have a little bit of money left to do further analysis on going north of Windsor. And one of those analyses that we've done is how can we cross the Russian River Bridge in a more economic way. And we have reduced the cost of the bridge substantially. And in a very, very near future, we will be coming out with the components of what it takes to go to Healdsburg. So reducing the cost of Healdsburg Bridge is a huge number, and we're very happy with where we are. But allow me to release that once we finished our analysis, so we all have something in front of us. And we're also working with the city of Healdsburg on relocating, or they're thinking to relocate their station from just north of the bridge to somewhere in downtown. So it can be in the center of town. We're working on all of those. So we have a little bit of money from Windsor project. If everything goes on time and on budget, which we're hoping for it, then we have a little bit of money left to start working on how to get to the next station, meaning Healdsburg.
And I think what's true, if anyone could find a way to lower the cost of a bridge, it's Farhad. That's evident by the bridge here in Petaluma over the Petaluma River that was a reused bridge from the state of Texas. So Farhad, I'm not sure if you're going to ship in a new bridge over the Russian River in order to save a dollar or two, but if it did save a dollar or two, I'm sure it would happen.
You know, our chief engineer, Bill Gamlin, is a terrific engineer, and I think he has something up his sleeve already on dealing with that.
That's great. How about Nancy McFarland? Nancy? Nancy, we can't hear you. I see that you're unmuted. Can't hear you yet, Nancy. How about we come back to Nancy and we go to, is it Renee Rowe?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can.
Great.
And Nancy, if you could just work on that audio.
My question is, Cloverdale citizen bought my house 5 years ago in Cloverdale. One of the selling points was the smart train. And I think, from what I'm hearing from other, citizens that are paying property taxes, we feel that there's very little hope that we'll ever see in our lifetime the smart train come to Cloverdale. And so it's hard for us to get behind, additional taxes, heading towards the project if we're not going to benefit. And I do, strongly feel that Cloverdale can benefit. We'll see more people move to Cloverdale, as well as more tourism if we can bring the train, to Cloverdale. So is there, anything the city is looking at, to look at, grant writing, fundraising, marketing to the people of Cloverdale also that, really are not for the smart train because they don't feel that they'll be benefited by it?
I don't want to speak on behalf of the council members because I know we have them here, but I know that we have great allies in the Cloverdale City Council and the mayor and whatnot. And I think we're all on the same page in terms of what we want going forward and how to get it. And obviously extreme disappointment way back when the decision was made because of the recession and the additional costs incurred to shorten the initial line. We're 3 years in and we've gone beyond the initial line already. And it gives us great hope that we can continue in that vein. So I do appreciate the comment, and we'll make sure that we continue to work in that vein. Does Nancy have audio? Not hearing any. Anyone else have a question? Oh, there we go.
A hand from Jesus Diaz. David?
Yeah, Jesus?
Hi. Sorry, my camera's off. I apologize about that. I do want to say that I am excited to see the train eventually and inevitably come up to Cloverdale. And I do want to say that it will be exciting to be able to provide an alternative transportation for some of our college students at Santa Rosa JC, whether it's the downtown Santa Rosa campus or the Petaluma campus. As a person who used public transportation to be able to get to college, and it's when I was younger, I see it as a huge plus and a benefit. And I also see it as a possibility to help attract some of the young population to live in Cloverdale with the incentive of having the transportation available for them to go to college.
I appreciate that very much. I think that's very true.
Yeah, and David, I think that Jesus brings up a really powerful point, and that is that, so much of the ridership on the Sonoma County Transit bus is, older Cloverdale High School students or kids going to SRJC who are taking the bus. I mean, and that's documented fairly well as well. So I think that needs to be a huge part of the consideration, is that we have a lot, we can get a lot of cars off the road because they're students. They are trying to get to SRJC or they're trying to get to Sonoma State. And, and that kind of, just brings me to the point that of the previous commenter, and that is that, how can we get Cloverdale folks behind this? And I think that, my advice is stop electing people to Cloverdale City Council that say that the train is never going to come here, because I don't think we can, we don't need that kind of cynicism and negativity. We really need to understand what the facts are, what are the requirements, and what are the steps that we can take to make sure that we have the housing density that will bring, that will enable the financing to bring the train here. And also on that note, I think that what we need to do as Cloverdale residents is communicate to the rest of the cities in Marin and Sonoma County that, if our biggest greenhouse gas emissions are from our car traffic, and they're saying that they're going to be taking real steps to address climate change and greenhouse gas emissions, how can they justify leaving out the most geographically isolated city on the line from being on the line, because this is where a huge percentage of the cars are coming from. And I think that, as Deb brought up earlier, we do need to relook at those studies. We do need to go back and relook at the traffic patterns, because I believe that they are much higher than our population reflects. We have folks on 128 who work in San Francisco. I know them personally. I have friends here in town whose kids go to the junior college a couple of times a week, and they're relying on the buses. I know people are commuting from Mendocino and Lake County, and they're contributing to the traffic patterns in Santa Rosa and Marin County. So I think that we need to take an actual, in a more holistic approach and see where so much of that traffic is. And if we are going to put our money where our mouth is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, we need to be one of the top priorities. And I think that I think the Cloverdale City Council needs to make a better effort of communicating that, so that our residents are lobbying us, they're lobbying Smart Board, and they're saying that, we're not letting you off the hook. The rest of the region, we are an essential part of you solving your traffic and your greenhouse gas reduction issues.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I appreciate that. I'm looking again for any raised hands. Is there anyone who would like to speak?
I was hoping some folks from Geyserville were also going to jump on. Is there anybody who, from our greater Cloverdale folks, or anyone from Geyserville, want to raise their hand and ask a question?
Well, Adrian's on. I don't know how to raise my hand here, but I am on. I'm listening. Hopefully, if the train does go to Cloverdale, that we might get a stop in Geyserville. I understand that was something that was not in the original SMART plan, but I don't really know that much about how that came about. there are a number of people in Geyserville who are interested in the potential of having a stop in Geyserville. So at some point, maybe we can talk about that more.
I appreciate that very much. And I know I hear from that. I hear from Supervisor Gore regarding that issue. So I guarantee you that there's people planting seeds in people's ears and advocating on your behalf. Again, going up and down, I'm not seeing any hands raised. Is there anyone who, perhaps like Adrian there, just wants to speak? Go ahead. We can hear you.
You've had these meetings in other cities. What have been some of the questions that were asked to you or comments?
That's a great, I can tell you, I have some of the summary right in front of me from what we talked about on the 14th when we were in the town of Windsor. There was a lot of comments about looking forward to the smart station in the town of Windsor. Of course, it's a different place and time than Cloverdale, but making improvements to the train schedule, which I think is reinstating the weekend service, adding more weekday and evening runs was one of the questions, and improve the integration with other transit services, which I think we are well on our way to doing prior to COVID. And then COVID deleted a lot of runs for different agencies, and that coordination probably is further off now than it once was. People were supportive of the bridge and the bicycle and pedestrian overpass in Santa Rosa connecting the Guerneville station, Santa Rosa Junior College. Again, kind of what Jesus was talking about with that connection to the school. Tourism issues, the wine country and the breweries can smart support area tourism that way. Later evening service because of that. Express trains for special events. Support transit equity by lowering fares for low-income riders. Perform a thorough analysis of the cost benefit of extending the line. Airflow graphics to promote the safety of riding smart. That was specific to all the issues with COVID that we're dealing with. Remove train seats to increase floor space for electric bikes. Apparently electric bikes are becoming much more popular. They're a little bulkier and heavier and harder to hang up on the bike storage on the train. So those were some of the comments that we heard from Windsor. It's been similar, although with a little more of a local flair, I think, safe to say, as we go around. And that's kind of what SMART's intent was, to make sure that we went and scheduled in each and every city along the path, that we can kind of hear those things that are unique to that particular city, take those back and kind of really encapsulate that in any kind of policy changes and going forward. So we do appreciate that. I think I will say that on the scheduling side, it's something that SMART is continuing to look at, refine. And again, COVID took everyone by surprise to some degree and changed what we're doing. I can tell you as an MTC representative and someone who's on this transit committee for the entire Bay Area, that SMART is not alone in the ridership decline, although ours is now building back again. But those March, April numbers just plummeted for every transit agency, as you can imagine, with everyone either sheltering in place, working from home, not traveling. And it is very much something that we're looking at, and how does that affect public transit into the future? For some, even here in Sonoma County, the Sonoma County Transportation Authority approved reviewing with our 3 existing bus agencies, which is Sonoma County Transit, Petaluma Transit, and Santa Rosa City Bus, looking at, ultimately perhaps even consolidation. That would be the final step, but kind of going down that path. And I can tell you that's happening throughout the Bay Area as well. So it's an interesting time for transit, to say the least, in terms of where we sit and where ridership is when it comes back. I think is still, to the levels that we had before, at least. I will personally say that I believe the train offers a convenient and safe transportation, that it's much, you have more space around you than you do on a bus. And you have more cleaner. I would say that the trains are cleaned thoroughly, and you have the opportunity to make sure that you're safe on the train. The airflow question had to do with the amount of air that flows through each car, and since they're brand new, that's pretty considerable. So rather than, we got 2 questions. That's great. How about Nancy and James?
Hi there. Hi there. Can you hear me?
We can.
Hi, great. We had issues with the mic before, so we switched over to the old phone. So I just I have a comment, and I fully support the train coming up to Cloverdale for so many reasons. But I just wanted to throw some light on another reason other than, the aforementioned reasons people were suggested or commented on. And that is, when Healdsburg gets that train, they're already getting robust tourism. It's just going to be dramatic there. So if the train gets capped off there and doesn't go to Cloverdale, I really think Cloverdale is going to suffer a lack of potential if we don't have that rail use. And so I think extending it to Cloverdale will help kind of meet out so much potential for our town. We all know the benefits of the train, getting to hospitals, getting to specialized healthcare down further south in Healdsburg or Santa Rosa, for instance, or for sure the commuter traffic and the environmental impacts. Those are obviously super important. But I just wanted to comment on that as well as the tourist factor being a huge issue. Thank you.
No, thank you. We appreciate that. And again, you're looking at it from, I take that as an economic development point of view, and wanting to make sure that Cloverdale is not left out of the mix in that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry if I can interject. James brings up a great point because, we have folks here who have to take if they need to go to medical care in Santa Rosa, it takes them 4 hours to get to an appointment because they have to take a bus and change buses and there are folks here who who are working poor, working class, and for them it would remove the time tax that former council member Carol Russell would talk about, that people, the working people suffer because if they don't have a car, it takes them 2 or 3 or 4 times longer to get to where they need to go. And of course, with the hospitals located along the tracks in Santa Rosa, and with a more robust last mile connections, that really removes that burden for those folks. And it's the same for the students as well.
Great, thank you. And Adrian, you have your hand up. Was that from before, or you have something there?
No, now I was multitasking before and I wasn't really prepared, but I do have a question.
Sure.
So there is a Geyserville Planning Committee, and since I couldn't get anybody else on from Geyserville, would it be a possibility that in an upcoming planning meeting that someone could come and talk about SMART? And their Zoom calls now, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And if we'll make sure that happens.
Okay, I will let them.
I will make sure I make that happen. So, and I see Deb as well. You might get a crowd.
That's fine. That's wonderful.
I want to say something.
Yes.
Please, Deb.
So Adrian, the night before the Kincaid fire, I was at the Geyserville Planning Committee meeting on behalf of SMART.
Oh, okay. I missed that. I was actually in Oregon at a training.
Okay.
So
So I was. What was interesting, I remember because we met in the firehouse, and it was before the alarms went off and started the fire. But I gave a huge presentation on behalf of SMART. That was a SMART slideshow. And what the issue is that when the legislation was created for SMART back in 2002 and 3, for some unknown reasons, there's a clause in the legislation, the SMART enabling legislation, that says there will be no SMART stations in unincorporated areas north of Healdsburg.
Yes, that's what
So you were left out. So the legislation would need to be changed for one thing.
Right.
So
that would be the conversation, I think, is there enough interest and meeting requirements to actually pursue that, start pursuing that.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Jimmy.
Great. Thanks, guys. Sorry, I'm actually joining from work. Cloverdale resident here. I actually spent a couple years on the planning commission there. Still a long-term resident full-time and working full-time in San Rafael. Therefore, I do take the SMART train just about every day. And let me tell you what amazing service it provides. And I just want us to keep pushing for that because I use it to get from Cloverdale to where I work. Now, here's my question. And if someone else has already asked it, because I've been kind of in and out today, forgive me. You know, since I ride the train, I get to have a lot of conversations with other passengers. And since I work in Marin, I get to have a lot of conversations with residents of Marin who kind of have different perspectives. And what I keep hearing over and over and over from Marin residents that are coworkers and friends and avid cyclists, if the SMART bike trail became a #1 priority or a top priority, that we would possibly regain support that we may have lost in Marin based on it coming up short. So is there any new news or any discussion points about the bike trail at all?
No, I appreciate that very much. So again, reiterating the point that should the bike trail, and I don't think it ever, in my opinion, it's never not been a priority. And I think the general manager would probably agree in terms of the miles of trail that has been built. And it's a matter of how quickly, and everyone who doesn't have a piece, that's the most important piece that's missing, of course. And it's kind of that piece going forward. But we do hear that, and we want to make sure that we continue to advocate for that. I would say that the other thing that's true on the bike, it's true on also the rail, but bike provides opportunities to leverage dollars from different sources than what the rail provides. So sometimes it's a matter of making sure that you're leveraging the biggest amount of dollars. You know, I think that while it's great that we taxed ourselves for this particular project, it's even better that if we can get another matching amount from the other available sources and then combine the two and have a project that's quote unquote half cost for SMART itself. And that's been the goal as we move forward, to be smart with those expenditures. But I'm really glad that you've had a positive experience riding to and from work, and very much appreciate that. Yeah.
No, I love it. I get to spend 45 minutes checking email and getting my day started, as opposed to spending an hour and a half struggling to get to work in a car.
So I appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate that. I also want to recognize, I think, Director Connolly from Marin, supervisor from Marin, is also on with us today. So thank you.
Right on time to hear that Marin-based conversation.
So he'll get all the Marinites in order.
Exactly.
Hey, Damon, you probably won't be surprised at how many people who work in Marin and who live in Cloverdale. I mean, Jimmy's not the only commuter I know who is going to San Rafael or Novato.
Love it.
Yeah, and they're not taking their cars; they're taking SMART.
Excellent.
Perfect. How about Renee Rowe? Renee, you have another question or comment?
I do. I'm still not clear. You know, I'm a person that likes to take action and have actionable a plan. And so I'm just not clear. What do you need from the city of Cloverdale and the city of Cloverdale residents to help bring this to fruition? What are the steps and the exact things that need to happen?
That's a great question. We certainly need your support, and that's both politically, and hopefully it was there in the last time we went out for the tax measure. So that'll eventually it'll come back. We're not sure when. We want to make sure that we go out and do these listening sessions to really incorporate what it is that we need to incorporate into our policies moving forward. Again, what's I think most people don't fully comprehend is that SMART is an infant in terms of transit agencies. We're 3 years plus old, and and during that course of time, our infancy is akin to that of the 16th century, because we've had wildfires and pandemics and all sorts of pestilence that we've had to overcome. But through it all, the train keeps rolling and keeps building, and it provides for that reinforcement of our corridor which I think is very unique to Marin and Sonoma County, having the one major thoroughfare freeway corridor through our counties that really does connect the vast majority of our communities, and having the train provide an alternative way of transportation will, could be that third or fourth lane, depending on where you are along the freeway and car traffic, and do it in such a more comfortable and environmentally friendly way. So we will make sure that Renee, I appreciate your wanting the actionable items, and we'll make sure that we take that back and really come up with a plan going forward. And we will enlist you to be that person in Cloverdale to be the smart champion going forward, to make sure that we can collect those dollars that we need to continue to advance the system.
Yeah, because that's just the part that's still unclear to me is I was looking at the sales tax didn't pass. So what else is needed? And I'm definitely not a transportation person, but is it grant writing? Is it, looking for, how do we look for the funding? What can the city do, the city council and the mayor? And then what do the residents need to do to help? But it just seems like we need to have a plan for the city of Cloverdale instead of continuing just to wish it would come. We need to have a plan behind it.
Yeah, and Smart does, like most entities, including the county, have advocates working for them both in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C. to make sure that when there's a transportation measure or talk of a transportation measure that we're going to be at, put in the best, have the best advantage going forward to be competitive, but to also to get the monies back here locally. And so I know that during those times, your council might be required or asked, not required, asked to have a letter of support going forward to really kind of reiterate the points to those elected officials, both in DC or Sacramento. So we do often take those things up. There's constantly legislation that affects the way that we go about doing our business, and it's important to kind of follow. And we do that at SMART, and we'll continue to communicate through our agency to all the jurisdictions along the route that can help us. I'm going to go to Willard Richards and then back to Sheila Baker. Willard?
I was wondering if this is a time that Director Rabbit would like to explain how Smart to Cloverdale is not now in the MTC plans required to be eligible for federal funding for grants to go to Cloverdale, and how the MTC goes about deciding whether or not a given project should be included in their plans. Thank you.
Thanks, Willard. That's a great point. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of the cost-benefit analysis, which is one of the criteria that MTC does use. And it goes to the importance of making sure that we're included in those plans. And I know that SMART staff has been working with both myself and Damon Connolly, the other MTC commissioner that's on the board, to make sure that we advocate to get that included and how it gets included. Plan Bay Area, which is kind of the 9-county sustainable communities plan, of which we're mandated to do by the state to come up with take care of population growth within the 9-county Bay Area, but also do it in such a way that we can meet our greenhouse gas emission goals. So you have possibly growing the Bay Area by up to 2 million people at the same time you're trying to lower your overall greenhouse gas emission goals within the confines of the existing infrastructure is a challenge, to say the least. And so it's also fiscally constrained, which means that you don't have unlimited amount of money to put into plans. You have to kind of figure out how you go about doing that. So then one of the criteria becomes this cost-benefit analysis, of which we've talked about earlier. Cloverdale is challenged because of the amount of passengers that the system would pick up and the cost of the infrastructure to get from whether it's Healdsburg or Windsor up through Cloverdale. So we continue to work on that. We continue to kind of advocate. The North Bay commissioners meet on a regular basis, and we continue to kind of drive home the point that this is a very important project and make sure that it's included. We look at trying to include it in several different ways, I can tell you, Willard, because it's also, if the costs are too high, is there a way to lower the overall cost? So you heard the general manager talk about the bridge as an example, to make sure that the dollars that are going into that equation that are projected dollars for future spending are actually not on the high side, but actually are more practical and realistic. So there's several different strategies, and we're continuing to work on that. Sheila Baker?
Okay. Hi, thanks. I was just wondering, back in the day when I was a transit bus rider, avid bus rider before SMART came into my life, I had this real basic formula for how many cars the bus took off the road. And if I saw 40 people on a bus, I thought, the bus is 40 feet long with 40, people in the bus. And so one bus carrying 40 people. And what would that be if they all drove a car, and 10 feet long car times 40 people? That would be 400 feet plus, a distance between cars, et cetera, et cetera. I'm wondering if SMART has done that, because I've heard, when Measure I was going, the unfortunate naysayers said, oh, no, it does not do anything to traffic congestion. It's just it doesn't even touch, the train doesn't touch traffic congestion. And I thought, yes, it does. It big time helps with traffic congestion and also vehicle miles traveled. I think about that. So is there any kind of formula for, basic, like how many people, if you have 100 people on the train and how much space on the freeway and the roads that saves each town and each place, and also the vehicle miles traveled? Thanks.
Thank you, Sheila. And I'm sure that there is, and we'll make sure that we incorporate that in the summary and bring that back to the board going forward. How about Mark? Is it Rincon?
Yeah. Hello. Hey, this is a more mundane question, but the North Coast Rail Authority was dissolving itself, and I think SMART was destined to take over the railway in the North Sonoma County. Do you know where are we in that process? And once it changes hands to SMART, what are SMART's plans in the interim before the rail actually arrives to take care of some of the crossings that have been neglected for decades?
That's a great question. And Farhad, can you just let us know where we sit within that process? Because you can probably summarize it much clearer than I could.
Sure. So where we are is we're working with NCRA as well as the freight operator, NWPICO, State of California, and Senator McGuire. And where we are in the process is there are two major agreements that everybody has agreed to sign off, and I expect we all sign off in the next month or so. Under that scenario, state will give SMART money so we can go buy NWPICO. So it's all state money. Also under that scenario, we gave Senator McGuire an estimated cost of $10 million so we can do some maintenance. Senator McGuire has been able to raise $2 million of it. And as soon as we sign the agreement, he will give us the $2 million, and then we will seek his help to bring the rest. So the idea is to definitely get back into what should have been kept, and we're going to do a lot of learning. So Mr. Rinkin, if you have any specific location, would appreciate hearing from you so we can put it on the list. So my guess is we will be consummating this deal in the next couple of 2-3 months. And then the handover officially with them going away and we taking over could be as late as end of the year or next spring.
Thank you, Fahad.
Great. How about Adrian? Back to you, Adrian.
Yes, that brought up something. Thanks, Mark, for jogging my memory. So we have a rail crossing at Geyserville over a creek that has a huge log totally blocking the channel. So I've called SMART and around, and I've gotten nowhere with trying to get this out, because if we get any measurable rain this winter, obviously nothing can go down the river channel and it's going to go everywhere else. So if I could get a contact or somebody could put in the chat email address, that would be Wonderful.
Farhad, is that something that you could do? I take it.
Yes, I will. This is all still NCRA and NWPCO. If you don't mind, call my office tomorrow so I can get more information from you.
Okay.
And I will be following up on your behalf with the freight operator and NCRA.
And what is the phone number?
I'm gonna have them send it to you right now.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Perfect. We appreciate that. It's always good to get an
Just a quick comment on the rail authority. They're not very responsive. We've tried many times to work through them, and they pretty much throw their arms up, say, we're broke, we don't have no money to do anything. So as the cities take on a lot of the crossings and the rail tunnels in terms of, dealing with the homeless that live in the tunnels and whatnot. So that's what, basically what I'm interested in is that at some point, the rail authority will cease and SMART will take it over, and hopefully we can accomplish, more things together.
No, I appreciate that. You can imagine there's not a lot of motivation right now as it sits in this legal limbo and transition. I can tell you on whatever's in waterway, sometimes it can also be different jurisdictions. And so I'm sure Farhad can also deal with Sonoma County, whether it's, I don't know if that particular creek is in the flood control district.
No, it's not, but it's right. There's a culvert that goes under 101. So there's sort of the Caltrans nexus and private ownership and something with the railway.
Okay. I was hoping that it was something that we could kind of find a smooth path forward, but it sounds like it's.
Well, I have one way of doing it and it'll happen in the night, but whatever.
There you go. Sometimes that is it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands raised. I don't know if anyone has anything for us further. I don't want to keep us unnecessarily. At the same time, I want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to get their comments out or questions, as it were. We probably talked more on this particular call than we have in the others in terms of kind of going back and forth, but I do appreciate the opportunity and thank you for that. We will, like I said, make sure that we summarize what we heard tonight, make sure that the entire SMART board receives that. And then we will make sure that as we continue around the two counties, kind of bring all of that information together and make sure that we can look at that and see what things that we really need to address going forward. But I think it's important that we have that communication. So I very much appreciate you all taking the time tonight to log on, even if you were just listening, to make sure that you got what you needed out of it going forward. And I thank my colleagues for being here and listening in person as well. And of course, we thank the leadership of Chair Lucan for continuing to lead us going forward, and to Barbara Parr as well as our vice chair. If there's not any more questions, I don't really need to fill any more time. And I can say to everyone, thank you very much. I'll turn it back to Chair Lucan for any final goodbye.
Thank you, Mr. Trout. Yeah, don't want to take up anybody's time. Final thank you to Mayor Walter and Councilmember Bagby
Senior
for
advantage.
hosting us in Cloverdale, and all of our SMART board members that joined us. Thank you, everybody, and we'll be in touch. Take care.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.